The camera light blinked once and settled into a steady red glow, the kind meant to reassure, not accuse. Marcus Vail installed the CCTV system because security had become a habit, not because he suspected betrayal. When you build a company from nothing and grow it into a name, people whisper with respect. You learn to protect what you have. Offices had cameras. Warehouses had cameras. Even the outer walls of his home had cameras. It felt normal, responsible, necessary. He never imagined the one camera placed inside his own bedroom would become the most expensive decision of his life. That morning began like any other. Marcus woke before dawn, reviewed overnight reports, drank his coffee black, and skimmed through notifications on his tablet. His wife Lydia slept beside him, peaceful, wrapped in white sheets, her breathing slow and even. He watched her for a moment, as he always did, wondering when their conversations had become schedules and silences instead of laughter. He kissed her forehead quietly and left for work without waking her. By noon, the system installer called to confirm the final camera had been synced. "You can view everything remotely now, sir," the man said proudly. Marcus nodded, distracted, already thinking about the meeting ahead. "Good. Thank you." It was late afternoon when he remembered. A small gap between appointments. 5 minutes before the next call. He opened the security app, mostly out of habit, scrolling through feeds of gates, driveways, hallways. Everything looked ordinary until his thumb paused. Bedroom camera. He hesitated. He did not know why he tapped it. The screen loaded slowly, then sharpened. Sunlight filled the room, bright and unforgiving. White curtains moved slightly with the breeze. On the bed sat Lydia upright, her hair undone, her face pale, her hands clutching the sheets to her chest. Beside her was Daniel the gate man, bare-chested, his eyes wide, his body frozen as if time itself had caught him mid-breath. Both of them were staring toward the doorway, where the camera angle cut off the rest of the scene. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Then he saw himself. Not literally, but his reflection in the mirrored wardrobe door standing in the doorway, frozen disbelief etched across his face. The feed froze for a second, buffering, as if the system itself needed a moment to process the damage. Marcus dropped the tablet. It clattered against the desk, but he did not hear it. All he heard was the blood rushing in his ears and the echo of a silence so loud it swallowed every thought. If you are watching this story unfold and you believe betrayal only happens to careless people, stay with me and subscribe, because this story proves even the most guarded lives can shatter in seconds. He did not scream. He did not throw anything. He simply sat there as the realization settled heavy and final. The house he had built, the marriage he had trusted, the loyalty he assumed. All of it had existed alongside a truth he never saw coming. When he finally stood, his legs felt weak, but his resolve was terrifyingly calm. Marcus Vail did not act in anger. He acted in certainty. He drove home without speeding, without calling anyone, without turning on the radio. The gates opened automatically, recognizing his car as they always had. The house stood quiet from the outside, beautiful and deceptive. Inside the bedroom, the air was thick with panic. Lydia had tried to speak. Daniel had tried to dress. Neither succeeded before Marcus stepped fully into the room. "Marcus," Lydia whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel slid off the bed, his face flushed with fear. "Sir, I can explain." Marcus raised one hand and the room fell silent. "Get dressed," he said to Daniel, not looking at him. "Then wait downstairs." Daniel hesitated only a second before obeying. The sound of him scrambling for clothes filled the room like an insult. Lydia reached for Marcus. He stepped back. "Do not touch me," he said quietly. Tears streamed down her face. "It was a mistake." Marcus laughed once. It was not cruel. It was hollow. "Mistakes are forgetting keys," he said. "This was a choice." Daniel left the room, head down. Marcus turned to Lydia. "How long?" She swallowed. "A few months." "And you were sleeping beside me every night?" he asked calmly. She nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Marcus took a deep breath. "You will stay here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we will talk." She nodded, desperate. "Please." Marcus left the room. Downstairs, Daniel stood near the staircase, trembling. "You are fired," Marcus said. "Your final pay will be sent. You will leave tonight." "Yes, sir," Daniel whispered. Marcus looked at him for the first time. "If you ever step near my property again, the cameras will be the least of your worries." Daniel fled. That night, Marcus did not sleep. He sat in his study, replaying memories, examining moments he had dismissed as stress or distance. Late nights, canceled trips, sudden kindness followed by guilt. It all rearranged itself into a pattern he could no longer deny. By morning, his anger had cooled into something far more dangerous. Clarity. He met Lydia at the kitchen table. Sunlight streamed through the windows the same way it had in the footage. The contrast made him nauseous. "I am filing for divorce," Marcus said. She cried. She begged. She blamed loneliness. She blamed him. She blamed herself. None of it mattered. "You broke something that cannot be repaired," Marcus said. "This is over." Within days, lawyers were involved. The house became quiet. Lydia moved out. Marcus stayed not because he wanted to, but because leaving felt like surrendering ground. The story should have ended there. But betrayal rarely finishes when the truth comes out. It lingers. It mutates. It demands consequence. Weeks later, Marcus received a call from his head of security. "Sir, we have a situation." Marcus frowned. "What kind?" "Daniel has been asking questions about your systems, your schedules." Marcus went still. "Why?" "He says you ruined his life." Marcus leaned back, considering. "Monitor him." Then something else happened. Lydia filed a claim. She accused Marcus of installing cameras illegally, of spying, of invasion of privacy. Her lawyers painted him as controlling, obsessive, abusive. Marcus watched his reputation wobble under words sharper than any blade. The footage that proved the truth also threatened to destroy him. Marcus realized then that power did not protect you from betrayal. It only gave betrayal sharper teeth. The court battle began quietly but viciously. Lydia's legal team pushed for access to the footage. Marcus's team resisted. The media caught wind of the story. Headlines twisted facts into spectacle. Businessman caught spying on wife. Security cameras turned a marriage into surveillance. Marcus watched years of credibility tremble. But Marcus Vail had not built his empire by panicking. He fought back strategically. He released portions of the footage under legal protection, not sensational clips, just enough to establish consent and context. The narrative shifted. Sympathy returned slowly, but scars remained. Daniel disappeared from the city. Lydia settled out of court. Marcus won legally, but victory tasted empty. Months passed. The house remained full of cameras but felt hollow. Marcus stopped checking the bedroom feed. He slept in the guest room. He worked longer hours. He avoided mirrors. One evening, his assistant mentioned something casually. "Sir, the security footage from last year flagged an anomaly." Marcus looked up. "What anomaly?" "A person entering the East Wing after midnight repeatedly." Marcus frowned. "When?" "Before the incident. Before the divorce." Marcus's pulse quickened. "Pull it up." The footage showed Lydia entering the house late some nights, not alone. Daniel was not the first. The betrayal ran deeper than he imagined. Marcus felt something inside him finally break free. This was not about heartbreak anymore. This was about truth, and the cameras still had more to reveal. The discovery changed the shape of everything Marcus thought he knew. He replayed the footage again and again, not because he needed confirmation, but because his mind refused to accept how long the deception had lived inside his own walls. Lydia had not fallen once. She had been living another life parallel to the one he believed they shared. The bedroom camera had only caught the moment that finally exposed it. The rest had been hidden in plain sight. Marcus did not confront her again. There was no point. The divorce settlement had closed that chapter legally, but emotionally he was still trapped inside unanswered questions. What hurt most was not the physical betrayal, but the calculated ease with which she had navigated his world. The staff, the schedules, the blind spots. She had known them all. She had used them. He shut down the East Wing cameras temporarily and requested a full forensic review of the system logs, not out of paranoia, but out of a need for clarity. If he was going to rebuild anything, it would have to start with the truth, no matter how ugly. The review revealed patterns, dates, repeated access times, and something else that unsettled him more than he expected. Lydia had overridden certain alerts using administrator privileges Marcus had not known she possessed. Someone had given them to her. Only 3 people in the house had that level of access: Marcus, his head of security, and Lydia. Marcus sat back in his chair staring at the screen. The implication was impossible to ignore. Either Lydia had somehow acquired credentials without authorization, or someone he trusted had helped her. He called his head of security, Marcus Reed, a man who had been with him for over a decade. "Come to my office," Marcus Vale said evenly. "Now." Reed arrived composed as always, but there was a tightness around his eyes Marcus had never noticed before. "Tell me how Lydia accessed admin privileges," Marcus Vale said without preamble. Reed hesitated only a fraction of a second. It was enough. "She requested temporary access," Reed said carefully. "She said you approved it." Marcus Vale folded his hands. "When?" "About 8 months ago." "And you did not confirm with me?" "She is your wife, sir." Marcus Vale leaned forward. "She was." The silence stretched. "You bypassed protocol," Marcus Vale continued. "Why?" Reed swallowed. "She said she felt unsafe, that the cameras were for her protection too." Marcus Vale stood. "You are suspended pending investigation." Reed's face fell. "Sir, please leave," Marcus Vale said. The suspension sent shockwaves through the company. Rumors circulated quietly, but no one dared ask questions directly. Marcus Vale's name still carried authority, but now it carried something else too. A warning. The deeper investigation uncovered more than Marcus expected. Lydia had not only bypassed alerts, she had manipulated footage timestamps on several occasions. Not enough to raise flags, but enough to create windows of opportunity. Someone with technical knowledge had assisted her. The company's internal audit team traced access logs to a junior IT contractor hired through a third party. The contractor had received payments routed through an offshore account, tied back to Lydia's personal trust. Marcus closed his eyes when he read the report. This had not been an affair born of loneliness. It had been a coordinated deception. The betrayal cut deeper than rage could reach. Marcus made a decision then that surprised even his closest advisors. He chose not to pursue criminal charges. Not against Lydia, not against Reed, not against the contractor. Instead, he walked away. He divested from the residential security division entirely, sold his stake, publicly reframed it as a strategic shift toward commercial infrastructure. The press speculated. Analysts debated. But Marcus Vale knew the real reason. He could not bear to profit from something that had watched his life fall apart. Months passed. The house was sold. The cameras removed. Marcus moved into a minimalist apartment overlooking the river. No gates, no guards. No surveillance inside the walls. For the first time in years, he lived without watching. The quiet was unsettling at first. Nights felt exposed. He slept lightly. Every sound felt louder without the comfort of feeds and alerts. But slowly something unexpected happened. He began to breathe. He started attending therapy sessions reluctantly at first, then with honesty. He spoke about control, about fear disguised as responsibility, about the difference between protection and possession. "You built walls so high nothing real could climb over them," the therapist said gently, including trust. Marcus did not argue. One evening as he walked home from work, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. He almost ignored it, then answered out of habit. Mr. Vale, a nervous voice said. This is Daniel. Marcus stopped walking. I know I should not call, Daniel continued quickly. I just needed to tell you something. Marcus remained silent. I was not the only one, Daniel said. There were others, before me and after. Lydia used people, promised things, money, protection. Marcus closed his eyes. She told me you were cruel, that you watched her constantly, that you controlled her life. A bitter smile crossed Marcus's face. And now, Marcus asked. Now I see she lied, Daniel said quietly. I lost everything, my job, my reputation. But I deserved it. I just wanted you to know she was never a victim. Marcus said nothing for a long moment. I know, he replied finally. Goodbye, Daniel. He hung up and stood by the river, watching the water move steadily forward, uncaring of the lives unfolding above it. The call did not reopen wounds. It closed one. Marcus focused on rebuilding not an empire, but himself. He invested in companies that valued transparency over control. He mentored young entrepreneurs, teaching them what not to do as much as what to do. He stopped sleeping with the lights on. Years later, Lydia attempted to contact him. The message was brief, apologetic, and heavy with regret. Marcus did not respond. Some chapters did not need revisiting. The world moved on. The scandal faded into obscurity, replaced by newer, louder headlines. Marcus Vale's name recovered its weight but lost its sharpness. He became known as private, reclusive, focused. He preferred it that way. One afternoon, while reviewing a proposal, Marcus noticed a familiar name on the document. Marcus Reed, his former head of security. Reed had started a consultancy specializing in ethical surveillance policies, transparency audits, consent frameworks. Marcus stared at the screen for a long time. The irony was almost poetic. He approved the partnership. When Reed came to the office months later, they spoke briefly professionally without revisiting the past. Both men had changed. Both carried scars, invisible but present. As Reed left, he paused at the door. I am sorry, he said quietly. Marcus nodded. So am I. The cameras had exposed more than an affair. They had exposed a system built on fear, masquerading as safety, control disguised as care, surveillance mistaken for trust. Marcus learned that no amount of technology could protect a relationship built without honesty, and no wall was strong enough to hold love hostage. At the end of it all, he understood something simple and devastating. The cameras did exactly what they were designed to do. They showed the truth. If this story made you reflect on trust power in the quiet dangers of control, then like, subscribe, and stay with the channel, because some lessons are expensive, but they do not have to be wasted.